Give us your predictions, what you think might happen in that very, very, very big clash that's coming up later on this evening at 10 o'clock. Minister of Sports, Arts and Culture, who was there at the Africa Cup of Nations, is back in the country. And I'm sure if we do get to the final, which I'm sure we will definitely do, is here to chat to us. Minister, good evening. Welcome to the show.
Good evening, Rob, and good evening to your viewers and listeners.
Oh, man, you were there. You gave a team talk. You were there in that change room. Even the president today referred to you as a coach. What can you tell us? This is a big moment for South Africa.
This is a big moment. Firstly, congratulations to the boys. When we did the post-match talk, which you say team talk, it was a post-match, which was important in the light of losing the first game. We could see that the spirit in the team, they were dejected, the technical team was dejected. It was important that on behalf of all of you South Africans, on behalf of Europe, that we go and encourage and motivate them. And to say that it is just the beginning. There are examples in the history of the world tournaments, such as the FIFA, for example. You remember here in South Africa in 2010, it was Spain who lost their opening match. But after losing their opening match, they went through all the way to lift the trophy. So it was important to give those words of encouragement that, of course, we lost our own game in the first match because we had all the great opportunities to finish the game. But it was important that I go, but they've been charged since then. And I think it was important for them to draw lessons from the game with Mali. Of course, there are issues of conditions. I'm sure as a soccer enthusiast yourself, you know the conditions in some of these countries. But I think that is behind them. The fact that they spend a little bit of time, they've now internalized some of the issues. But most of the players, as you know, they come from Sundowns. Sundowns has played a number of games in the continent, which has helped a lot. But I think for them to be where they are now, as we rally behind them tonight, it's an achievement for Bafana Bafana. And I think with all the doomsayers about Bafana Bafana, and I think there's a good chance that you could go to the semi-finals as well as finals, which I have already communicated to Rowan, that I'll be coming with the president to the finals, like I said, when we went to France, Paris, when Mopoko almost passed the group stages, we said we are coming to the semi-finals. I am certain if they continue to be disciplined, focused, teamwork, and make sure that they do what they do best. What they do best, when people said I'm a super coach, we are very good when it comes to short passes, avoid long balls, play those brilliant crosses from the wings to Zwane and Mukwena. And I think they've proven beyond a doubt that they have regained confidence in this tournament. What is good about this tournament, Rob, there is no Goliath and David. I mean, we have seen the best countries, the best players, the best teams being kicked out from group stages. So it's always very competitive, this tournament, again, because of how it's organized, which credit must go to CAF. Having been there, I've seen one of the best organized tournaments under President Motsepe. And I think that Bafana Bafana will do well tonight. Let's give them our full support. And I'm sure the boys are now full confidence, have now accepted and internalized the conditions of Ivory Coast.
Do you think Morocco are the favorites, or is it Bafana Bafana who are the favorites?
I mean, if you look at the record, since 1998, as a favorite is South Africa. But of course, in these kind of tournaments, like I just said, you won't walk into the pitch with a mind that your favorites will win. I mean, we've seen best countries. If you saw the Egypt and Morocco, Mozambique, these are some of the shocking results that came out of these teams. I don't think we must walk in. We might be gung-ho about the results, but we've got to play, we've got to score, we've got to win the game at the end of the day with confidence, with discipline, with focus, with teamwork. With teamwork, avoid any physical game because, we're not as strong physically like other teams. And I think tactically the coach has prepared them over a period of time. They've now gained full confidence as players.
when you say that they are the favourites, we've been seeing a tournament here, Minister, that has been favouring the underdogs. We saw Senegal marching away, an Ivory Coast host nation that was done and dusted virtually as far as this tournament is concerned. They've bounced back, fired their coach. The interim coach has done a superb job. Little experience at that level. So given the balance and the scale, your Algerians, your Egyptians, your Cameroonians, all of them out of the tournament, where does that put us?
I said, Rob, when I had a post-match talk with them, they are no underdogs. The fact that any country, any team qualifies to reach that level of tournament, we are no longer an underdog. We are only an underdog when we are talking about qualifiers. I mean, one of the countries we beat to qualify for AFCON is Morocco, the country we're playing tonight. But again, that should not be the mentality. You need the mental strength that although we beat them to qualify to where they are, but this is another level. I'm sure themselves, they want to redeem themselves for many other reasons. But I think it's important that South Africa must go through. I am very full confidence that South Africa will be among the countries that will go to the semi-finals, if not finals, Europe.
And being with the president early on today, what are his thoughts? I mean, he played a major part. Has he put out maybe a call to the captain, to the squad, just to encourage them ahead of the game?
I've never had such a conversation, so much conversation in South Africa about Bafana Bafana. Over a period of time, there's been very negative comments, even among South Africans, about Bafana Bafana. I mean, if you look right about the video which was doing rounds, which went viral about me, people speculating that I was talking during the halftime and so on, which was a post-match, about 1.5 views. And I think the president, when he called that night, when we lost, he said, I almost had a heart attack. I got a call from everybody. We are talking about one of the calls I received. I got a call from Juju. I got a call from Balula, everybody. It's encouraging that the leaders of the country who say to them, different political parties and everybody else, and say, we've been watching Bafana Bafana before. But I think the continued noise around Bafana Bafana, but how they lost tonight, we almost had a heart attack. And definitely tonight, millions of South Africans will be glued on the screens because people are beginning to show their confidence and love for football and Bafana Bafana. And that is a message we sent with the president this morning. I spoke to President of SAFA, who also spoke to Rowan this morning, the captain, to say, please express our confidence. That is what players want, because that is the mental strength they want. That they've got the support of the country, not to read much about negativity. In any country, there's always been those negative vibes. But I think the more they get this positive support, is the mental strength that they need for them to play well in the pitch.
All right, you talk about glued to their screens, Minister. Just finally, it's going to be impossible for most of us to be glued to our screens because of load shedding. It's going to be virtually impossible. Yesterday, come midnight, the lights went off. So I couldn't watch the extra time or the penalty shootout because I was staring into darkness. Now, here's our national team. We've seen, I don't know how the grid works, wet coal, dry coal, whatever it is. All I'm asking is there a way that we can rescue the situation so that all South Africans can have the comfort, the ability, and opportunity to watch the national team play?
What I like is honestly about the Minister of Electricity. He doesn't want to present a situation where he thinks that we can resolve the issue of load shedding tomorrow. But from what he has presented over the past few weeks and days with us at Lekgotla, a vision and a plan to end load shedding over a period of time. I mean, it's unfortunate that we have in the middle of the tournament, important a continental tournament, and we still have these problems. I had hope, if I had powers, to stop load shedding. I'm not the Minister of Electricity, I'm not at AFCON. I will ask at least that 2 hours. But the regulation of load shedding, I don't know how it's done. The other people are on AFCON, other people are on municipalities. And I'm sure that either radio or people through social media, they should be able to know the results. This is quite an unfortunate situation. But I'm sure that as time goes, there is commitment on his part and the part of government to make sure that ultimately we reduce or as well we end the load shedding.
Yeah, we'll keep the rallying cries going, Minister. I know that it's not your department, but I just thought, via the strength and the power that you have, maybe a conversation can happen to somebody, because we've seen this. We've seen it during the rugby. We've seen it during certain funerals of individuals who I have too much respect to mention on air, where, load shedding did kind of disappear. So there is ways and means, I believe, that these things can happen.
We've seen also over a period of Christmas, over what I call the big days.
Yes.
I think there is explanation for that, because the biggest users the consumption, like your mining sector and so on. There is explanation why we were able, at least the grid, be able to not to load shed, because everybody was on holiday. There's an explanation for that. But I'm not an expert in that. But I'm saying I agree with your outcry. I agree with the outcry of many South Africans. It's unfortunate that if I was the Minister of Sport, I would simply go to the grid and say, keep the lights on. But there may be consequences if I to say that. The following day, the whole country may go to darkness. Because to load shed is not to say there is no electricity. But as the name says, it's load shedding. It's regulating the availability of electricity.
Yeah, we can't afford to allow history to pass us by because of load shedding. It's about memories. And even if tomorrow morning we were plunged into darkness, so be it. We would have witnessed history happen. But Minister, thank you so much. You know what? I do appreciate your time. I appreciate the support you've given the national team, the individuals that you've been able to take to whatever World Cup, to go and fly the South African flag. The players always come back and say it makes a big difference when there's familiar songs that are being sung in the grandstands. And I think it's no different now.
They do a lot. I must say, our presence at times, they may always be critiqued. They will not appreciate how much players appreciate the presence of South Africans, either in the form of Mam Joy, Saddam, Botha. Worse when you come from a government and speak on behalf of millions of South Africans. Players themselves do appreciate. Me and you who are sitting somewhere may not understand the impact that it has on players, and will continue to do so, Rob.
Thank you so much, Minister.
Thanks, Rob.
All right, Minister Zizigodwa joining us right here on hashtag MSW Marawa Sports Worldwide ahead of a crunch game. Morocco versus South Africa.
Good evening, Rob. This is Odysseus here in Cape Town. Wow, the day has arrived, my brother. It's Bafana Bafana versus Morocco, the best side in Africa. They reached the semi-finals of the World Cup. But watching this African Cup of Nations, I'm not afraid of Morocco, Baba. Definitely, I'm not afraid of Morocco. You look at the trend which has been happening. Egypt, Algeria, Tunisia, Ghana, and when everyone was tipping Senegal to go through Izolo, by Shaile, Ivory Coast, everyone had written Ivory Coast out. And if you write Bafana Bafana out like that, it's at your own peril. This Bafana side, they are not intimidated. They've got players who have played at this highest level. And I'm tipping South Africa to win this match, Robbie. Something is telling me that it's going to be a big surprise for some people, but for me, it will not be a surprise. Like head-to-head clashes between the two nations. Bafana is beaten in Morocco 3 times. In Morocco, Bafana 2 times. And if you watch the last match in which South Africa played against Morocco, they won. And it was under Hugo Broos, and it was probably one of the best matches for Bafana Bafana. So I'm tipping Bafana Bafana to win.
Bafana Bafana to win. Lots of predictions coming in. Thank you so much, Audacious.
Good evening, Tarofuza. I'm banging. I'm not going to officially Bafana Bafana Tlasha. No man John Beliba Zulula against Morocco. 2-1.
2-1. I think even the baby there in the background agrees.
Good evening, Prarob, MSW shareholders, and the whole of South Africa. You are speaking to Spelele Tangazele from Empangeni, Engolezane. Well, for me, thus far, this is the best AFCON I've ever witnessed. Yo, kunzima la, ay kushubile. For South Africa, I just want to wish them all the best for tonight's game, and hopefully we will beat Morocco and advance and go all the way. Gabon.
Yeah, it's about advancing. It's about going all the way. MSW AFCON, Marawa Sports Worldwide, hashtag MSW wherever you are on the country, the continent, or the world. Yeah, the world's been watching one of the best Africa Cup of Nations. I can tell you that much from a personal perspective. But what about South Africa? Well, their record. Yeah. And I think the minister wasn't too far off. South Africa have got a very good record, a good head-to-head record against Morocco. There have been 3 wins, 3 draws, 2 defeats in the 8 matches. So when I go back to recent clashes that have been very, very close, the qualifiers, Bafana Bafana lost 2-1 in Rabat, and also stunned the World Cup semi-finalists by the very same scoreline in Johannesburg, though that game was pretty much a dead rubber. The coach, though, Hugo Broos, who is the Bafana Bafana coach, believes that Bafana can make a game of it again.
You know, everything is possible in football. And I know what I said already in the beginning, this is a very good team. If you can be fourth from the World Cup, that means that you have much quality in the team. And those players are all playing for big teams also in Europe. And I said before the beginning of AFCON, teams with those players are a little bit advantage to teams like us who play most of with players of the local competition. But again, it is possible. We did it last year in June in Joburg. We beat Morocco. So it's not because you have the best players and maybe you are the best team that you win the game. We saw the surprises.
So when the national team coach, Hugo Broos, says what he says, we got to believe him, eh? I guess over a quarter of a century ago, hey? South Africa's 1996 iconic Africa Cup of Nations triumph remains the high point for Bafana Bafana. Sadly so. I mean, it was a monumental victory. However, it remains our only triumph in tournament's history. The team had only played together for a very short period, with World Football governing body FIFA lifting SA's expulsion from the international stage in 1991 as the racist system of apartheid was finally abolished. Everything opened up. The Springboks' world-conquering victory in 1995 Rugby World Cup had given the team a form of buoyancy, I guess. And they felt they needed to maintain the high spirits of the country following that 1994 elections, as well as that iconic Bok triumph. Now, the Boks did it again just a couple of months ago. So can Bafana Bafana do it again? Is there a pattern here? Time will tell, but for now, a man who was there in 1996, who knows what holding that trophy aloft means, is here with us, and he'll tell us if the current generation can go all the way, emulate the class of 1996. Andre Arendse, former Bafana Bafana great, is with me in studio. Good to see you, Andre.
Thank you, Rob. Good to be here. As always, of course, nice to chat, especially when it comes to Bafana Bafana. It's always nice to chat what could potentially be happening. So let's do it.
What's your feeling tonight? What's your feeling? As you walked into the studio, something must have been buzzing in your head. What was it? Yeah,
there's a nervous feeling. Nervous in the sense that it's not going to be an easy task. Let's be clear about that. But up until maybe a few hours ago, there was when it comes to predicting this one, there was a head and a heart sort of scenario going into it.
Yeah.
But I said it just this morning to somebody. I said, I've got a feeling. There's a feeling of something special, something extra in the tank, and they're going to have to produce something special. Let's be clear about that.
Yeah.
The team's going to have to produce something special to get across this line, because you're coming up against a team who are no mugs, especially in this tournament and in world football, and they've proved it.
Yes.
You've just got to look at any potential starting lineup that this Moroccan team could put out tonight, and that's going to be your hurdle, your challenge. But I just feel there's something extra in the tank. And
so it's the same feeling you're having that I've been feeling somehow, because, you know what, I've been seeing all these big nations go. And I say, okay, fine. South Africa, they don't take us seriously. You look at the attendance at a lot of our games so far in this tournament, they've been virtually playing in front of thousands and thousands of empty seats.
Yeah.
And it shows that nobody's giving South Africa a chance. So maybe this is the time.
And maybe it's a blessing in disguise.
Yeah.
And I think the tensions of the eyes of the world are off us. But I dare say that I see them coming in their numbers tonight. That's for sure. Because why I say that is, when you look at the tournament, when you look at the group stages, I believe we've grown with the tournament.
Yes.
We really have. It's taken a wobble in that first game to set the boys on the right track, and we've got to give them a massive amount of credit.
It takes a spark, Andre. You look at the spark that was presented to Ivory Coast last night.
It does take a spark, and I think that spark came in the way of a 4-0 win. And you don't really care who the opposition is in a tournament like this, because I think that every opposition who plays in a tournament like this deserves to be there. And so that for me was the spark that was missing. It's a spark that ignites confidence. And I can see that in the way they're starting to play as a team. And that for me is something that's positive, something that gives you that hope.
Let me start in a position that is very familiar to you. I did say in the post, on social media that you were the 10th captain of Bafana Bafana in that game against Mexico. Very proud, very historic. We got a Ronwen Williams now, somebody that you know very, very well. Also leading, also captaining. I think at a time you had a crazy record of 502 minutes without conceding. There was even a greater record. But then the goal that you conceded against Egypt had seen you go without conceding for that long, which from a personal perspective, maybe let me touch on that before I talk about Ronwen. What is that moment like, and what sort of weight do you carry knowing that any minute now that record can be, boom, broken just like that?
Yeah, so it's how I deal with it, Rob.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a proud record that I've kept. And funny enough, you mentioned that it was 502 minutes before Al-Kas got that goal for Egypt against us in the tournament proper. And it was also a launch pad for wanting to better that record. And then I eventually went on to keep a clean sheet for 693 minutes. And that for me is a testament to the back four that I had in front of me at any one given time over those minutes that we kept clean sheets.
Yeah.
And I think it'll be the same for Ronwen.
Yeah.
As a last line of defense, you cannot, in all honesty, do that on your own. You cannot break records on your own. And so I think it's a defense that needed to be tinkered with a little bit. Mm-hmm. And I think Hugo Broos has gotten to a back four, if you like, that is starting to become comfortable with each other. And Ronwen's becoming comfortable being the last line of that defense. So that's fantastic. But I don't think you've got to read too much into it. You've just got to focus on the task at hand. And tonight's task at hand will be getting through this game.
But do you get through the game in terms of approach, Andre? Is it a case of being cautious? Because sometimes caution, and it happens when it gets to the business end of any tournament, that flair, that excitement that we saw within the group stages goes out the window. People now play not to lose as opposed to playing to win. But yesterday's game threw that notion completely out the window. I mean, I've never seen guts, glory, leaving everything on the field like I saw yesterday.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's a very good point you raised. And I can only answer that question from a personal perspective. And 1996 was proof of that. Guts, determination, proving people wrong, all of those things. And that's a very similar path that the guys are going to have to take tonight. When you look at Bafana Bafana at the moment, our strength is possession football.
Yeah.
We thrive on possession football. We've pulled teams apart from a possession football base. So if we're going to allow teams to come onto us, we're going to have a problem. Get the team higher up the pitch by playing football. And I think we will surprise ourselves when we, by the end of this game tonight.
And I'm glad you mentioned something like possession football, because at the end of the day, that's what will give us the victory if we are serious about it, which I think the boys are. Here's a quick voice note about maybe, I don't know if we have this kind of player.
Good evening, Mr. Marawa. I would like to wish Bafana Bafana all the best. But I think we can win the match, Mr. Marawa. The only thing that I think we need to change is the issue of our target man, because it hasn't worked for us. So if I were the coach, I could just use the false number 9 instead of using a target man, because the issue of our target man hasn't worked so far, Mr. Marawa. But I foresee Bafana Bafana winning 2-1. Thanks, David in Parkwood.
David in Parkwood, more positivity coming through for Bafana. That's what we want to hear. Do we have a target man? He talks about a target man.
David makes a very good point there, Rob. If you want to talk target man, let's talk Magopa, for example. So he's literally, in terms of build, ability, a nice target man to have. And a target man's always a luxury for a team.
Yes.
Target men for me it just takes everything away from the other players. For example, so people focus on you a lot more because you're that target man, an outlet, as we like to call it. But what's around that target man? You know, you've got your towers operating around the target man, whether it's on the right hand side, inverted, coming in. Zwane is another one. Takes the pressure off players like that, for example. And so it's always good to play, and it's been working for us, I think. So whether you want to call it a front three. Maybe, but what I've liked, especially in that 4-0 game of ours is Tapelo Morena and the role that he played in a more attacking kind of way for the team and how effective he was. That, for me, if we can get that combination right tonight, we got a chance.
Right, you talk about that. There's been another player, maybe underrated somewhat, Andre, as Pepelo. They call him Yaya Stolle, who was the representative of South Africa for the pre-match conference, echoing pretty much the same concerns, or maybe not. But he was very positive at the press conference.
I think everybody knows that the tomorrow's game is going to be difficult for both teams. But I think if we can bring our A game tomorrow, I think we can be able to get our best results, because that is what we need.
He wouldn't have earned the nickname Yaya if he didn't deserve it. I mean, physically built. I mean, he has a strong boy from KZN Ulundi, and he's been spending all his time in Portugal being molded into the kind of player that he is right now.
Yeah.
Andre, what do you make of him and his contribution? He gets that starting berth every time.
I love the physical look of him. I love his ability on the ball.
Yeah.
It's very calm. He gets things going. I like that he always looks for forward solutions. When the team's in possession and we want to play and start getting the team further up the pitch. And that, for me, takes the pressure off the back four. And certainly the back four is going to need that kind of approach tonight. What we've got to be careful of is the wide players. So Modibo, if he plays, for example, and Modao if he plays, but especially down Modibo's side. When you've got a player like Hakimi, who's always looking to get forward and get, sort of stretch the game, if you like. Quality play. I think that's where we must be careful of being hurt tonight.
All right, you talk about Hakimi.
Good evening, Rob. I think we are getting to a stage of the tournament where matches are determined by fine margins, and the previous matches would have been an example of how an error could cost a team dearly, and I think we need to minimize the amount of errors in the match, play our own style of play, maintain a very solid compact shape, and also be mindful of Hakimi, who probably be making those advancing runs. We also need to monitor Unahi, who normally makes those progression runs in the middle to capitalize on the second balls. But I think for me, we've got a very strong team to take us to the next phase. But all I can say is that Pambilinyo, Bafana Bafana. Thank you so much,
Teboho, thank you so much indeed. A bit of mind games that we saw with the Egyptians, citing the likes of Hakimi as being doubtful starters. Teboho lays it out very nicely in terms of what we need to look out for. But do you buy into that? I don't think so. I don't think whatever players they put out and told us publicly that they're doubtful starters are very doubtful. I really think that they will play.
I think you're going to get that.
Yeah.
People are going to start talking. Ziyech was another one. Yes. That was meant to be a doubtful starter. So I think we mustn't read too much into that. And as you rightfully say, Rob, it doesn't matter what team they put out tonight. There's loads of quality in any starting 11 that a team like Morocco will put out. So I think we've just got to just sort of not focus on listening to those comments, but focus on ourselves. We've got to, as we spoke about possession football, if we can get that right tonight, and I promise you, yes, we're not going to be in possession of the football for 90 minutes. But if we get our pressing lanes working nicely, so don't give them time on the ball. As soon as possession is turned over, get back into get in their faces, force them into errors, and retain possession of that football, because that's our strength. That's what we are as a team these days. And I like watching us play when we have the ball. So it's going to be an exciting one.
What you talk about is very important, Andre, because that Sundowns dominated team can actually work, because when you're dealing with North African opposition like we will be, there will come a time where there'll be desperate times, where there'll be desperate measures that are being put forward, and we know the tricks. So if you're a defender, don't give away silly fouls within a dangerous area. Don't even touch somebody in the box, because they will go down and go down quite dramatically. How do you coach against that? Is that an instruction? What do you do? Because if you let the player go, you say, coach told me not to be tight marking. Yeah. And then if he does and there's contact, player goes down, there's a penalty.
Yeah. So when you look at that approach, And for me, I think one of the key members of this starting 11 tonight will be someone like Tebogo Mokoena. Tebogo Mokwena's got this hardness about him. So when he loses possession, he wants to win it back quickly. And that's what's going to be key for the team when we don't have possession tonight. Players like him, they're going to be critical to how we do it. So how do we keep them away from our danger zones? Is, like I say, when we don't have possession, we literally have got to look at who the first defender is. And that first defender, when possession gets turned over, might be someone like Mogopa, which means that he becomes your first defender. Go and press, and the rest of them follow. That's how you keep them away, and you force them to make mistakes, and that's going to be critical for us. And how we sort of navigate those moments in the game when we don't have possession tonight is going to be our most difficult aspect of it.
You remember a team manager for Bafana Bafana, first team manager, maybe around about the Africa Cup of Nations time. You remember who the team manager was then?
Back when?
Back in your days, 96,
back in my day, yes. Team manager is a guy called Glenn Binkin.
Glenn Binkin.
Yes.
Very famous man, Glenn Binkin. So he's listening to the interview. He sent a message. He says, "You're interviewing my hero, a scholar and a gentleman. Clive Barker always said that if he had a daughter, the only footballer that he would allow her to marry would be Andre Arendse."
Marawa Sports Worldwide, covering Africa Cup of Nations Cote d'Ivoire 23. All of the action, all of the time. Hashtag MSW AFCON.
Evening, Brother Rob, and evening to Mr. Arendse. Mr. Arendse, where do you see the game being won today? If South Africa had to win the game today, where would you say South Africa need to be really creative and really solid in order to tackle a very talented Moroccan side? Thank you, Mr. Robert.
Yeah, Andre Arendse, my guest here tonight on hashtag MSW. We're 15 minutes away from the first game for tonight, which does not involve South Africa, thankfully. Hey, it'll be Mali up against Burkina Faso. But in answering that question, where do you see the game being won tonight?
Defensively, this is going to be our biggest test.
Yeah.
And if we can keep this team at bay for large parts of the game, and by that I mean not conceding, we give our team an absolute chance of going all the way. I think you've got goals in Themba Zwane. He's proved that. You've got goals in Percy Tau. Morena will give you a lot.
Yes.
Because if he's not scoring, he's got this eye for a pass. He's got this eye for service to set up for a goal, for example, whether it's a cross from Mogopa to get in at the far post. We've got that about the team. But I think the game will be won or lost in defense tonight.
Good evening, Robert Marawa. Matsobana Spera Mamelodi Sundowns at Ridgeville. Bafana Bafana will win tonight 3-1 against Morocco. The energy that is at camp, the boys are hungry for a win. The boys want to get into the quarterfinal. I wish them all the luck, and I'm with them. I'm behind them every step of the way. Matsobana Spera at Ridgeville, Mamelodi Sundowns. Keep up the good work, Marawa. Love your show.
Thank you so much, 3-1. Matsoban, and thank you so much indeed for giving that confidence. We're going to head off now because we try and traverse the length and breadth of the continent.
Marawa Sports Worldwide. Live action from Stadler and Puku Stadium in San Pedro. Hashtag MSW AFCON.
Yeah, San Laurent Puku Stadium. That's where we're going to be finding Far Post editor live from Ivory Coast, Mthokozisi Dube, to give us the latest surrounding the national team. Bafana Bafana. Mthokozisi, thank you so much for your time. Good evening. What is cooking on that side?
Thank you so much, Rob, and good evening to the listeners. It's I was sitting in the media center here, full of Moroccan journalists, and in this beautiful town, there's a lot of Moroccans that live here. So expecting to see a lot of Moroccans in the stadium, but nonetheless, Bafana Bafana.
Just on that one. Sorry, Mthokozisi, let me come in here because we've got to put this image in our listeners' minds here, where there were 3 South Africans in a press conference that were from South Africa versus 140 Moroccan journalists. So how does that work out?
Look, I think there's 3 of us here, and the Moroccan FA has actually assisted their journalists to travel to Cote d'Ivoire for this tournament. So that's why there's a lot of them. here. So yeah, during the press conference, I mean, they wanted our coach to speak in French, and we said no, there's no way that's going to speak in French because we won't speak anything. And luckily coach also agreed, and he refused to speak French. He spoke in English. So yeah, there's too many of them here.
Oh, that's good. Well done to Coach Hugo Broos. Zini French, we had the Rugby World Cup. We here. So now we talk the English. And so that's the only way to keep it straight on. So well done, Hugo Broos. I think that really earns you the next round place. But I believe here, that the Moroccans, they actually fear Ukhulise Mudau. Tell me more.
Look, the question has been, the first thing we were asked yesterday was, is the Sundowns right back going to play this game? And we said, look, this guy has been injured, so we don't know. But Khuliso didn't train on Friday. We watched the session. He didn't train the following 2 days. But yesterday we saw Khuliso training, wearing his boots, kicking the ball, looking okay, to play. Tuvimvala as well as the other one who didn't train. But yesterday they both trained. So looks like they could be ready to play tonight. But from what I'm gathering, they will definitely start tonight.
What about the coach? One minute he's suspended, the next minute they're letting him go, the next minute they're taking him to CAS. What's going to happen to Walid Regragui?
Look, Walid, he spoke about the lifting of his suspension, and he says he feels it was unjust. The same thing that the Morocco FA said when they were appealing. So, look, he's excited to be back with the team, to try and push and achieve something with this group of players. So he's gonna be there in the dugout. But look, I think in the game against Zambia, he set in the stand and obviously gave instructions from there. Not too sure how much of a difference that makes, but he's happy to be back in the dugout.
I know that you always have the inside edge. Your Scorpions have been rife throughout the entire tournament. So let me tap into that. No official team sheets have been released yet. But I know anything to do with you is official. So how are we shaping up today? Who are these 11 soldiers taking to the field?
Look, it looks like, because the only worry was the injury to Khuliso and Tuvi. But looks like they are fit, so they should be starting. Both of them should be starting. The rest of the starting lineup doesn't change. The central defense, Grant Kekana with Patlam Vala and then Oprimo Tiba on the left, Tepelo Stole and Temuko Mokoena in midfield, and then Tembazwane. And then you have Mahopa starting up front, and then Tapelo Morena and Pesitao. So the lineup not changing today, unless something drastic happens in the last few hours before the game.
All right, so unchanged. Let me bring Andre in here. If it remains that way, Mtokozi is the highly reliable source and editor that we have, who's our ears at the AFCON. What does that say? Is that the right approach by Coach Hugo Broos?
I think so. I think you want to keep a bit of stability in the team, which is fair, and you also want to reward the ones who've carried you through the tournament as much as you can. Obviously, maybe sometimes there'll be an injury here or there, and you've got to change it up. But I think when you keep a bit of consistency, and if that's going to be the starting 11, I think it's the right one. I think it's perhaps the strongest one, and I think it's the one that, from a mental toughness perspective, having gone through what they've gone through already in the tournament, I think will potentially see the team over the line.
Thomas, from your side, I mean, we beat Morocco at home last year. Ziyech was present, Hakimi was present. How much do we lean on this result now to go into this tie? But also, how do we lean on the 2019 Africa Cup of Nations victory against another North African giant in Egypt at the very same stage of the competition? Are there any parallels to be drawn here?
Yeah, look, I think the biggest thing going into a game of this magnitude is confidence. I've spoken to a few Pepelo Stole yesterday, saying the fact that we beat Morocco in Johannesburg, and we played very well in Rabat, conceding a goal late in the game, gives them confidence that they can actually beat Morocco. And also, there's 3 players that played in that game where we beat Egypt in 2019. Ronwen, PSC, Temba as well. So they are all saying, look, we believe it can be done. It's very much possible. So I think from a confidence point of view, I think it definitely is a massive boost that we've actually won this game previously.
I mean, I was sitting here with the goalkeeper, but we've had back-to-back clean sheets for Bafana Bafana. How key have those been for the team in terms of building the confidence, not conceding, Ronan Williams remaining resolute there at the back?
Yeah, quite interesting because I think we only considered in the first game against Mali. The next game, there was a change. Grant Kekana Kanvin for Sianda Kulu. He's not considered since then. And Ronan was saying that in not conceding, he's not had to make many saves. So that tells you that we've done fairly well from a defensive point of view. So I think it's important. I mean, coach has not changed his defense. From a confidence point of view as well, I think it's important that we've not conceded. If we can, shut the door at the back as well today, but also take our chances, I think we should be able to smile at the end of tonight.
Give me a smiling score.
A smiling score is a 1-0 score for me. Temba's on a strike.
Temba to continue. Hey, we lift our souls and minds. Temba, Bella. If you have to directly translate that, is that he really is our hope. Temba le again. Thank you so much, Mtogo.
Thank you so much, Rob.
That's Far Post Editor coming through live for us all the way in
Marawa Sports Worldwide. Live action from Stadler and Puku Stadium in San Pedro. #MSW AFCON.
Evening, Rob, Tsepo and Fosloras. Yeah, I think South Africa has a chance of becoming the surprise package, the tournament. Everyone was talking about the big guns, Senegal, Egypt, Ghana, all of these continents, all of these big names in the continent, they are out. So now it's up to them. And I'm also one of the people who have writing Ivory Coast out, but now they surprised us. They knocked out one of the favorites. Yeah, I think South Africa today have a big chance tonight of continuing where they left off, like it was when we beat in Morocco. So yes, 2-1 for South Africa tonight. Short, Rob, great show as always.
Thank you so much, my brother. Really appreciated. Confidence really oozing from both South Africans. What about the coach himself?
As I said already, we are confident and we believe in ourselves, and I think that is a big step we made in the last months, that we know what we are, of what we can do. And therefore, again, we are not afraid of the game of tomorrow. We will try to play our best level. And we know and we believe also that it's possible to beat Morocco, even when it's a very good team and a very strong team. So if we can start the game with the same mindset that we have in the games before, then maybe we can create...
Well, I'm sitting here chatting to a man who set a record of 693 minutes without conceding a goal for South Africa before he was beaten. That Congolese player, there was a striker by the name of Nachembe Yaunga Mohani. That was back in 1998, the World Cup qualifiers in Point Noir. We don't want no repeat of that. And I think a lot of the times people forget about Andre Arendse representing and playing for FIFA's all-star team when they played against the Asian 11 in Hong Kong. I mean, this guy went and turned down offers. Charlton was saying, hey, come and play for us. It's like, no. I'm okay. He had options. Played for Fulham. He even got his coaching badges while he was playing at Fulham. So it really sets him apart because the star quality still shines even till today. As we wrap the conversation up, Andre, let's focus on maybe one or two things that might stand out as being partly negative football from South Africa that we might need to panel beat into shape, because it's not a group stage anymore. Here, you lose, you go home.
Yeah. So I think that part of the game for us will be minimizing risk.
Yeah.
Any potential risk. I wouldn't like to see us try to play at the back too much tonight, especially when Ronwen's in possession. Ronwen's strength for me is building attacks. So driving those balls through midfield to people like Tembazwane or Tebogo Mokoena, them turning with it, finding those passes through those passing lanes, for example, with Tapela Moreno running onto it in wider areas, him crossing balls in Mogopa, for example. So you literally go from area to area within the space of a matter of seconds, rather than trying to play your way out the back. I think that's going to be critical because you open yourself up for a bit of risk. I think for Ronwen, he, as the captain, I'd like to see him draw on the inspiration of the 2019 African Cup of Nations in Egypt. I was there with him, heading up the goalkeeping department under Stuart Baxter, barely just scraping through the group stages, and coming up against Egypt in the last 16. And again, taking the game by the scruff of the neck and beating them in that round of 16. And I think if he can draw on that inspiration and filter that through the team tonight, I think that's half the battle won.
Andre, you are our inspiration, sir. Thank you so much. Really appreciate seeing you. And you used to be very great at one thing and giving us a prediction. In fact, you were so great, you gave us an exact score. So give us that exact score so we can go and sleep.
So I can tell you now, the heart's gone. It's all in the head now. And the head says 2-1 Bafana.
2-1 Bafana. Cheers.
Africa Cup of Nations, Cote d'Ivoire 23. Up to the minute, concise and reliable updates with Robert Marawa. #MSW AFCON.
Marawa, live on 947.